Hi, welcome to Across the Table with us. Thank you for joining. My name is Kimberly.
I'm Angela.
And we're thrilled that you're here. Today we are going to talk about how you can make an impact in the community around you. And we started this vlog by talking about our identity, and we've talked about being present over perfect, and we talked about how to embrace others by learning what they are on the Enneagram.
Yes.
And so today we're going to basically take all of those things and just talk about how who we are can truly make an impact and affect others around us when we use it for good.
Yes, it's going to be exciting. So let's talk a little bit about what that means and how we can make an impact, and in the daily things that we do. Because sometimes we think that when we talk about making an impact, we think that we need to do something grandiose.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't have to have world peace. I don't have to solve world peace.
Right.
Oh.
Or you don't. We all want to do that. Hey, we want to volunteer weekly at that specific place, but in the season of our lives that we're in, maybe that's not possible. But we can make a difference, just in our daily lives every single week, every single day. But we can also be intentional about one specific week, which is what we're wanting to challenge you to do for the next week. But let's talk a little bit about that first.
You can have this ripple effect in your community by doing even small things in the mundane that you're doing every day, and how doing random acts of kindness can truly impact and create a ripple effect in your community. So there's science behind this of when you do something positive, how it impacts you personally. So I think a lot of times we think of, oh, if I have to serve others, like that's work. And yeah, sometimes it does feel like work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we often don't realize how it impacts us personally too when we serve others.
Right.
And it creates this dopamine in our brain that is it's like a drug addiction, where once we do it once and we see how positively that impacted someone, that it feels really good to have been that positive light in someone's life. And so you are more inclined to do that again. And not only are you more inclined to do that again, but when you do that for someone else, then they too are encouraged and inspired to do that themselves for someone else.
Right. I think of it like exercise. Like exercise in and of itself, you kind of think that, it doesn't sound that fun to go do right now. Right? Like that's not your first, most people, some people love it, but most people, that's not their first thing that they want to do. But after you do it, that feeling, that's the same, that dopamine effect, it's the same feeling that you have after you do something, for somebody else. For me, when I do something for somebody else and I see their reaction or how they just are, not amazed like it was some grandiose thing, but just, for me, it feels like that moment when you see somebody, see Disneyland for the first time, like through the eyes of a child, where it's like, all of a sudden, they're the one that's there having fun, but for me, I'm seeing them having fun, and it's making me just have that soothing feeling.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because it's all the rage now on YouTube of people watching other people go to like Disneyland or unwrap their presents.
Yes.
And I think that that's kind of what it's like with random acts of kindness.
Yeah.
But it's in person,
right?
Where you actually get to be a part of it, but you get to see their reaction and how it makes them feel, and we love that, and that's why those videos are so popular.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So what's something that you've done, for somebody else that you can recall that you're just like, oh, that was just a cool moment?
Just recently, I saw this mom at a coffee shop, and she was there with littles, like babies. It was a double stroller, and I was that mom where I had two kids that are 20 months apart, and so we had that double stroller. And I remember thinking how hard that was in that moment. That season was so hard, the sleepless nights, I was tired, and here she is with her little ones in this double stroller that were asleep. Praise the Lord. And she was able to have some coffee. And so she had already gotten her stuff before I got there. So what I did was I just went and got a gift card And I went over to her and I said, this is for you, for any of those times when you are desperate and need coffee, because I know you're very tired. I've been there and you're doing a great job.
And I actually saw her do this, so she did do this. And I was just very, I don't want to use the word impressed because that's not what she was in it for, but like it just inspired me to want to, like when somebody does something, it makes you want to do something, pay it forward to somebody else. It makes you want to, what can I do right now to do something for somebody? And I think that's what a lot of it is. It's I've learned one of my mottos is to show up. So sometimes I don't really want to do something, but I've learned that when I show up, that's when like life happens. And so that's what we need to do in our regular lives, is that we do all of these things, routine. We go to the same schools, we go to the same coffee shops, we go to the same grocery stores, and we have a list of things to do for that day. But we can show up and be intentional and just do something small like that in the moment. Like you didn't plan that morning.
No.
So yeah, I think you can do little things, and then you can also do planned things as well. My 40th birthday, yes, I'm old. My 40th birthday.
You're in your prime.
Right? It was just like last year, But my 40th birthday, I wanted to do 40 random acts of kindness. I had read that somebody else had done something like that, and I was like, that's what I want to do. And my husband was like, for your 40th birthday, like, let's do something big and grandiose, let's have a party. And I was just like, this is what I want to do. And of course he ended up throwing something anyways, but I really, really had fun. On my actual birthday, I took my husband and my kids, and my mom even went and photographed so that we could see the surprises on people's faces. And we did things like simple things, though. They weren't things that cost us a lot of money. We first thing we did was mail cards in our own neighborhood to some doctors that we had previously had from Brad's previous medical history. And we did cards and lottery tickets and we put them on our neighbors' doors. The kids and I had made cookies the day before, and we brought some to the Fry's employees and I think the libraries as well. And we donated clothes to Goodwill. We went to Arrowhead Hospital, and we put crayons and coloring books in waiting rooms, and brought little cards and flowers to people that were in the surgery waiting area. So we just did little things like that. We went to Bashas' and got ice cream sandwiches and brought them, surprised our cousins with them. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be, all of that, we did 40 things specifically, and all of that didn't cost me more than $100. And, that sounds like a lot, but I did 40 things.
Right. And you don't have to do 40 things in
one
day or 1 week, but those are really, really great ideas. And it makes a big impact on people. Sometimes you're not going to see initially or like right away how it impacts them. You may never know how it impacts them, but sometimes you do. It's one of those things where when we were in the coffee shop, initially when I gave this mom that gift card, she was just like, what is this for? Yeah. And so I explained it. And I think that's part of it too, is that we kind of live in a world where people are thinking, oh, what's the catch? Which is sad. And so we can create a community where people aren't wondering what the catch is, but that they truly know, like, wow, someone loves me right now for just because I am me.
Right.
That's pretty special. To me, it brings us back to Mayberry. And I know some of you probably are like, what's Mayberry? Google
I want to go there.
Andy Griffith
I totally
show.
want to go there. I always say I should have been born in that decade.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's just so special where people took care of one another. And the thing is that we've talked about this, where people are craving those connections. At the core of everything, people want to be seen. And so when you are doing random acts of kindness for people, they do feel seen in that moment, and it truly can be what shapes who they are or changes the trajectory of their life. My husband has done motivational speaking for high schools in the past, and he went to this high school and was talking and having the kids cross the line, and they would see their commonalities among their peers, which he would have like 100 kids in a gym, and he would ask them to cross the line after doing activities throughout the day and building up to this moment where when they would cross the line for something, say it crossed the line if you had a family member that's been in prison. And then somebody would cross the line and they would look down and they would see, wow, that quarterback football player has this in common with me, this drama, major or whatever. And so they would see that they would have all these things in common. But what was crazy about that was that one day we received a letter from one of the students that was at one of these, and he said, I was going to commit suicide that day.
No way.
And then you came to my school.
Wow.
And it just changed my life. With something so small like that my husband just does as a profession, and
Intentionally.
it was,
In his daily life.
intentional. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
if we can show up, to your point, what kind of impact is that going to make
Right.
from the day to day?
Right. I experienced this a lot before, I don't know, in 2006, I believe. I had a lot of acts of kindness given to me. And before this, I don't think that I was willing to ask for help from people, And so I feel like once you receive random acts of kindness, that it opens you up to like more of like receiving as well. And you were able to bear the blessings of that.
I think that is such an excellent point that you make, because I know that I'm a prideful person. It's a huge flaw of mine that I work on all the time. And part of that pride is that, no, I don't need help. I got it. I don't want to burden someone, or I'm a control freak. And I feel like I can take care of this. But what I do when I say, no, I got it, is that I'm robbing someone the opportunity of
be a blessing.
blessing me or somebody else in the process.
Yeah, yeah. So some acts, let's talk about some acts that we've been given to us. We talked about some things that we've done, but what made an impact on us? We both have, we've kind of shared some stories about that. And I was thinking, it made me, when I was thinking about this, remember a lot of things. Just briefly, my husband had some medical problems. He had cancer back in 2006 and 7, and he's fine and all is good. Praise the Lord. But back then we were in a random, we were in Houston. We went to MD Anderson Cancer Center, and so we were all alone. But we had some people in our lives totally just show up, basically. And we had random acts of kindness where it was people that didn't know us from anyone, and then we had people that were super close to us just step in. And both of those are equally as important. I mean, all of your things that we're suggesting, they do not have to be to a stranger all the time. They can be to your next door neighbor, they can be to somebody at church, they can be to your brother or sister. It doesn't, when you say random acts of kindness, people think that it has to be like somebody that you don't know, and it can be both. But we had people show up in Houston that would show a random, we call them our Houston Angels. We had this random older couple who met us at a social worker office. They were kind of going through what he was actually going to go through, which is pretty intense. And they happened to be there, and they kind of overheard us and realized how young we were. Brad was in his 30s, young 30s. And they overheard we were going to be the next day for testing. Lo and behold, they show up the next day for testing just to kind of put their arms on us. And they said a little prayer for us. And everywhere we were going for that week, we were there a lot. They just happened to be where we were. Just in a lobby and wherever. Finally, we got to a point where they asked us for our information, and I gave it to them, and they helped me find childcare. And then after all that was done, it was like they did their work. We never saw them again. And I don't know. I still think that they were an angel, they were angels sent from God, and that's just But we had so many other things. Our church took up an offering, and it paid for our rent for a month while we were there. We had people in lunch lines, random people that paid for our food. It was like so many acts of kindness. I can't even not to mention my brother had my kids for an entire month while I was here, while I was gone.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So people just showed up, and that's what it made me, like to your point before. It made me feel in the midst of a place where it was only my husband and I, not knowing a single soul, it made me feel not alone.
Seen.
Yes. And back then we didn't have, I wasn't on Facebook every day, communicating with people. That wasn't really popular back then. And so it wasn't, none of the social media, texting I think we had, I believe so, in 2006, but it made me feel noticed. And it made me realize that there is a lot of goodness in this world, despite what everybody, media wants to tell us. So if you just look for it and you open your eyes to it, it's there.
Yeah, I think that that's a big part of why I have such a huge heart for mamas specifically, is because my husband travels on average 26 days a month between September and May.
Yes.
It's crazy. So a lot of times I'm a single mom, and I never like to complain about it because this is the life that we chose and it's all I've ever known. So I've learned really well of how to make it work, and we do. But I never want to complain about it, not just because this is the life that we chose, but I also don't want my family that lives far away from us to feel a burden or
Obligation.
an obligation, or that I should be living near them, you know. So I really don't like to complain about it. To your point, it's something
Right.
that I don't put on Facebook
Right.
or social media of, oh, woe is me, this is hard. But what was cool during all of that is that when my husband was traveling, he has very close friends that he went to college with that reached out, and they said, hey, come over on this day and bring your kids. And it's like, oh, cool, you know,
There
I
you
get
go.
to hang out with them. That's so awesome. And so I went over there, and the wife said, okay, I'm gonna watch your kids for the day, and you're gonna go have a spa day. I was like, what? And I felt guilty, like I can't afford that, like that's not in the budget because I'm a stay-at-home mom. I try to like budget everything. She's like, it's taken care of. And I just like felt so seen. And she said, I see what you do. I see how you're raising these boys. Look, I'm crying. And you deserve this. And I'm just so proud of you. And I'm grateful that our friend found this person to spend the rest of his life with. It just made me feel so seen and loved. And that because of that blessing that they gave me, one, I was able to be a better mom out of it because I got some rest and some R&R. But secondly, it made me want so badly to see that in others and make them feel the same.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, it's a great feeling whether you are the receiver or the giver. Usually more so when you are the giver, in my opinion. But the receiver feels pretty good, dang good too.
Yeah.
Especially because you're never expecting it.
Never expecting
You know.
it. Yeah.
But we have a great opportunity this next week to, as a community, you know, do these random acts of kindness, you know, whether it be somebody that you know or somebody that you don't know. It happens to be that this Wednesday, is 9/11. And there's a movement out there that people are challenging people to bring us back to that feeling that we had.
Do you remember? I mean,
Yeah.
some of our listeners and viewers weren't around during 9/11. Do you remember where you were and how that made you feel that week following it?
Yes, it's so hard to describe because in a time where it was so horrible of what was going on, there was so much community. It's like you don't want to bring back the horrid acts, but you want to bring back that feeling.
Right.
Everybody
Yeah.
united. And it just felt like that anyways.
Right.
I'm sure there was some that
Yeah.
weren't, but it was just a feeling of, how can we help? What can we do?
Right.
And so it shouldn't take something so awful for us to get back to that. So we're challenging this week. We're going to put up some different suggestions for things to do each day. You can do what you want to do or what's comfortable for you, but we're just going to give some suggestions for some ideas for you. But specifically try, even if you only one day, try on 9/11. Try on that Wednesday to make an impact on somebody's life, and then let us know. Let us know how you felt about it. Let us know how the person that you was the receiver, how you perceived them to, what they felt about it, because we really want to know. We want to know what, the reciprocation effect of all of this.
Yeah, I think that's the timing is so perfect.
Yeah.
9/11 was so much of this dark place for our country, and it's still, when we look back, it's horrid what happened. But it was having that hope in the darkness that it created, and where it brought people back to Mayberry of, we can do this. It put the American flags out on every porch, and it, you know, had people come together and open doors for one another and say nice things without saying, why are you saying that or doing that for me? But no, I see you, I love you, I'm glad you're here, which is so important. And the thing is that people are going through storms every day. It doesn't have to take a tragedy in our country or in our world.
But even now our country is divided, you know, and so we need to bring each other back together and focus on the good, you know, of what we all bring to the table.
Absolutely. And you know, I think everybody wants that change, to see that unity again. And we may not be able to change the world, but we can change one person at a time. And it starts with you. It starts with me.
It starts with one step. Do one thing. And then that will probably want you to do one more thing the next week, and then one more thing. And then as you're doing that, that person that you did it for is going to want to do one more thing. So together, we're better, right?
We are. We're better together. Absolutely. And I love the ripple effect that this will create. So follow us on Instagram, because we are going to have prompts where we will have something new each day this week to share how you can, just ideas that can encourage you for random acts of kindness. By all means, do your own if you have ideas while you're listening to this. But this will give you prompts, and you can do something every day, or you can pick one day to do it. But like Angela said, please come back and let us know what an impact this made on you or the other person, or both. That would be fantastic. We want to celebrate that with you and see everyone.
Yeah, just show up. I promise. Life happens that way. So thanks for sitting across the table with us. See you next week.